No one aims to come back from their cruise vacation that you've waited months, weeks, years, even for, to think that, man, I really hated certain aspects of the experience. But unfortunately, sometimes that's just the way it happens, that you are displeased and perhaps even hated some of the cruise experience. Luckily enough, I love some of those things happened on my most recent Holland America cruise, and I'm going to share them all with you. First up, with some of the hates. I actually hated some of the quirks of the ship, being the layout. This was something that didn't sit with me, and it actually took me a couple days to figure out what was different and why did this feel so different. On my most recent Holland America cruise, my very first Holland America cruise, I was on the Nieuw Statendam. Now, this ship is actually relatively brand new. It launched in 2018, and with the pandemic shutdown, it's still looking spanking brand new. But there was no grand atrium, and this kind of spun me for a loop. In my opinion, an atrium or a piazza is really the heart of the ship. I find some of my cruising patterns is that I will love to hang out and gather in this space. A lot of cruise lines will have activities that happen here, from egg drop challenges to captain circle events to just entertainment and singing and songs, and maybe even a bar right in the center of the ship here as well. So it can be that main center gathering place known as the heart of the ship. So without that, my heart wasn't in the ship. I thought it was so odd that this wasn't there. But they did have an alternative, and that was the Exploration Central and Cafe. This actually replaced it, in my opinion, and much to my surprise, this venue was absolutely popping every time I went in there. It was really an awesome spot to get views from what was happening out in the port. It's all the way forward and very high up on the ship, so you have a great viewing point of what's happening. So as you're pulling out of port, you can grab a pre-dinner drink and watch the ship pull out from the port of call of that day. And there's a great coffee shop. So it just, honestly, I was so shocked that this took place of it, but why not? Having a great view, it just was very surprising to me. So with the layout, some of the things that also made me hate was that it disrupted some of my daily plans or patterns, if you will. Sometimes you get into your routine and you don't realize that you kind of have your daily routine, your cruising routine, and this was disrupted for me and taken much by surprise. And this was that I wasn't walking as much of the ship. My room was all the way forward, and one of the venues that I was looking forward to enjoying was the Grand Dutch Cafe. But much to my surprise, I didn't enjoy this venue until day 4 of my 7-day cruise. Really odd, because I had the deluxe beverage package to where I could enjoy the specialty coffees that they have as well, and then they have delicious treats. So some of the treats are ham and cheese sandwiches, or the split pea soup, which is super well known for, and I actually to go back quite a few times to try all of the different desserts. And also the Dutch apple pie was delicious. But I was so surprised that I didn't make it there earlier in my cruise. I had waited that long on the voyage just because of the layout. It's actually diagonal or across from guest services, and the seating area has some nice window spots so you can see what's happening on the outside of the ship. But it gets really busy, and oftentimes if you go perhaps during lunch when the main buffet was closed and people wanted to grab breakfast there or something of that sort, people just got back on the ship, people would gravitate to this area of the ship, and a couple times I found it hard to find seating. So it's not somewhere where I would like sit up and perch with my laptop and things like that, with it being a really cute coffee shop. But they had a full bar there as well, but it was definitely difficult to sit and enjoy for a very long period of time. And something that I remind myself as well is that different doesn't mean bad. Different just means different. Different is something that makes cruising exciting for me, especially when trying a new cruise line. And this was one of the quirks that I had to get used to, was the deck numbers. Deck number 1 was a deck that we hung out on. Deck number 2, deck number 3. Those were the main areas, and you can see a full ship tour coming. It'll be linked in the description box shortly after this video airs. But my goodness, this was something that was confusing. When you get in the elevators and you're pushing the buttons and you see where you want to go, this was odd. For all the other ships that I've been on, I've never really hung out on deck 1, 2, and 3. A lot of times those are like the medical center, those are crew areas, places that we don't navigate. Normally it's more deck 5 is like the main area. And this took some getting used to. We were hanging out on deck 2 and deck 3. So just a mental switch. Not bad, but definitely a quirk. What I also really hated was how fast excursions filled up. Now this can be particular due to a itinerary that your ship is going to. We were cruising to the New England coast in Canada, and frankly, these are sought after destinations, especially after tough COVID restrictions and Canada being closed. People want to travel and see these hard to get to areas, especially in New Brunswick and areas of Canada that are hard to get to by car particularly. So cruising to these destinations is optimal. But that meant that excursions did fill up very quickly. I did try to book some cruise line excursions through the website ahead of time prior to the cruise. And actually, it was a few weeks out prior to my sailing date, and some of the excursions have already sold out and been put on a waiting list. So I was very shocked by this. I didn't think that it would sell out so quickly. Often this is something that reminds me of that happens in Alaska. So it's kind of one of those things where the destination is really driving the decisions of what people are doing in the port. They're not just really walking around and lollygagging. In the sense, we're going to see specific destinations and see the sights. I think a couple other factors play into this as well, as it being one of the first seasons of the New England restart in cruising, is that things are still kind of like the creaky wheel. We need to oil the process here, and that kind of goes with getting more tour excursion companies perhaps up, back, and running in that sense. So perhaps later on in the future there would be more offerings, but it did seem that perhaps it was somewhat limited, and the fact that things filled up pretty quickly. One thing that was actually really nice though about all of this is that they had a wait list. So prior to your cruise, you could get on the wait list and you would be notified, and you would have 24 hours to reserve your spot and pay online if you got booked on the wait list prior to the cruise starting, or you would be on the wait list during the cruise, and you would see it through the cruise line's app, which I have to say was very good. The overall layout of the app I thought was fantastic. The user ability, the ease of it, it worked very nicely, but more on the loves in a minute. But within the app, you could actually see which excursions you had confirmed and which excursions you were waitlisted for. So I found that very nice, and you actually used your app for the excursion ticket as well. They don't deliver those to your stateroom. It's all in your app. So when you check in for the excursion, you just show the app and they scan that or your ship card as well. I love a lunchtime option with pool views, but I have to say that I wouldn't normally put food on a love and hate list because it's so subjective. But by definition, let me know in the comments if you agree with me on this one, but New York pizza is thinner sliced pies. And the New York deli and pizza on board was the complete opposite. I was really shocked, and I did not like this pizza. It was thick, doughy, and really overly cheesy. So given its name, the New York deli and pizza on board the Nieuw Statendam, I felt that it really missed the mark for being a New York pizza. And I only ate there once, given that it missed the mark, and I did not like this pizza on board. Now, I already told you that one of my pastimes on cruising is kind of just exploring the ship, doing a little bit of people watching in perhaps that grand atrium, and oftentimes in those hubs and areas of the ship, there'll be a lot of shopping because you spend time in those areas. Now, one of the things that I kind of missed was shopping on board. I admit it, I'm a shopper. I like to go to the shops, buy my ship models, add those to the collections, all of that sort. I like to collect those little nuggets and those type of things and just peruse the shops even. But I did find that there was a real lack in supply of Holland America Line gear along with ship specific, so t-shirts, you name it, with Nieuw Statendam plastered across the t-shirt here as well. They did have the Holland America ship model, so I was able to add that to my collection. Luckily enough, another one gets added, but they didn't have some specific cruise line merchandise that I was hoping that they would have had for apparel, like baseball caps. That's a kind of standard item that I thought they would carry. I've seen that in so many of the other shopping videos that I've put out of what you can buy on board, but it was just kind of odd in the sense of that they had the high-end luxury Louis Vuitton luggages and bags and handbags of that sort, but then they would have also jeans. I've never seen jeans on board a cruise ship, and this was odd in the sense of, where are you trying this on? They don't have a changing room for you, so I guess you're purchasing it, perhaps trying it on in your stateroom, and if it doesn't fit, you're going to return it. That's not something I would buy on a cruise. I feel like I have to try it all on and it would just be a process. But if you were in a pinch and needed some jeans, there is that option for you. But just interesting, and I didn't love the whole shopping experience with the location and with the limited supply. Now, time to move on to some of the loves, because I did enjoy this cruise experience, even though there were some quirks. Now, pre-cruise, they really took care of us, and this kind of laid out into the hotel arrangements. Prior to even starting my embarkation cruise day, I was taken care of through Holland America's program of being able to have my suitcase arranged at my hotel door, picked up, and then I would meet it again on the cruise ship. Talk about ease and convenience. This is amazing. I just had to make sure that I had my bags closed and ready by that certain pickup time. I needed a few more minutes, but I got it together. Not being a morning person, it was a little bit of a rush and a dash, as I just wasn't used to making sure that everything I needed was out and ready. I'm much more used to dropping it off at the terminal with a porter, but the hotel staff took care of it, and then it was on our coach bus that transferred us to the terminal, which also was very convenient. We just waited in the hotel lobby, and then they took us over, so we didn't have to worry about our own other transportation. All the people who were traveling and staying in this hotel kind of went together, and they took care of us in that sense. Now, getting on board, I did meet my suitcase in my cabin, and the size of my room and my balcony I really did enjoy as well. With it being my first Holland America cruise, I didn't know what to expect upon entering into the cabin, and there were some few design features that I really did like. One in particular that I was surprised to see was actually that the mini fridge was a stocked mini bar, but it was actually located within the closet or the wardrobe. This is just a design feature that I wasn't expecting, and I actually thought this was actually really cool. I still had a lot of other closet space. It was located in the same wardrobe drawer area with the safe. So I didn't lose any extra space, and I just thought that was super cool. Other features within the room was that we had a lot of glassware. We had wine glasses and bar glasses as well for you to drink the water and use all of the mini bar drinks as well, which I thought was great because it was fully stocked. The balcony in our room actually felt a bit wider than normal, which was odd as well. And it even had footrests underneath. So I enjoyed this room very much. Now, the other thing that I thought was great, and I don't think I've actually mentioned, is this cruise I was actually cruising solo. And before my cruise, I didn't even know that Holland America had solo cabins. Mind blown. I had the opportunity to view some solo cabins along with some suites in our cruise here and saw some of the variety of different types of staterooms, and I was really impressed again with the layout and the design. And you can see some of those other suite tours along with the lounge access as well. If you check out the Nieuw Statendam playlist, you'll see all of those videos as well. So really kind of cool to see the variety of different type of rooms, from inside to family rooms to balconies. You have it. So the theater for entertainment actually blew my mind. Again, we're talking about the design and things, how they were so different from what I was used to, that it really opened to my eyes to how cool this was. The theater in particular on the Pinnacle-class ships, which is the class size that the Nieuw Statendam is, all three of these ships are actually built like this, and two thumbs up for this design because the theater has a low incline. It's not one of those theaters where it's up very high. It has a lower incline, and the stage is like a bulb in the sense where the seating wraps around the chairs. A few times I actually even got out of dinner a little bit late and ran over to the theater a few minutes before a show started. I was still able to get a great seat because of the way the theater goes. A lot of people don't love to sit too close to the theater, but it was an amazing seat. Great seat in the house. I don't think there was any bad seats, honestly, because there was no pillars or poles blocking the shows and all the entertainment going on. So I got to sit up close and really be immersed in the experience. Something that makes it even more immersive is the fact that the LED screen wraps around the theater as well. Whether it was the history and story of Holland America that they told, or the dance team when they became interactive with the dance floor, or the LED screens when they touched it, it became interactive and the colors exploded. This just became so cool and was just honestly very captivating to watch. Now, I can really appreciate being wrong. I can appreciate learning something on a cruise. Because of how much I cruise, I like to learn as much as I can and be a nerd in that sense. So not much of a love, but an appreciation for my embarrassment that happened on board. So with this learning experience, I guess I overestimated how formal this cruise would be. A couple things that played into the factor with formal night is that it wasn't as formal as I thought it would be. I don't know why, but I thought it would be necessary and mandatory in my mind that I would need to bring a full length gown to dress for formal night. A few different indicators here that cued me that I was perhaps overdressed was immediately stepping off the elevator or stepping into the elevator. I was complimented by other guests saying, "Oh, you look so nice. I'm so glad you dressed up like I did." They were not in a full length dress, but they were dressed up in cocktail attire. Getting off the elevator and stepping a few other steps, I was also complimented again by another guest, just saying how nice I looked, or nice that I cleaned up, right? And that was my cue, having been picked out, I guess, essentially twice in a few minutes of being outside of my cabin, that I was overdressed more so than some other guests. I think in my head, I thought the dress code, with it being the older clientele in this sense, with Holland America perhaps maybe a little more refined in this sense, I thought I needed to dress a little bit more pristine. But I think the things that played into it was that dress codes overall on a lot of different cruise lines are a lot more relaxed than what they used to be. And perhaps I was thinking that, comparing it to Cunard or something, to where, dress codes are mandatory, where men are wearing tuxes and to the nines, essentially. But that wasn't the case, and it was a bit more relaxed in that sense. People do dress nicely. They're not wearing jeans and that sort, more cleaned up. But I did feel a bit overdressed, so I was a bit embarrassed. But I love that this was a teaching and learning moment for me, and that I was wrong, essentially, because it makes it part of the experience for me in that sense. And with it being my first cruise on Holland America on the Nieuw Statendam, it definitely is something that adds to my experience. And I'm happy to learn that it wasn't overly stuffy and not so inviting. There were other features that I loved as well, and in particular hanging out on the pool deck and seeing that the cruise line used, big term here, used the retractable roof. This is huge. With the design of the ship, the pool deck sits a little bit lower. It's not on the very top deck here. So with the retractable roof, this is how you're getting the fresh air, the sun, the breeze, and also protecting you from the elements here. On the Nieuw Statendam, they actually used this retractable roof, which I got super excited about. Of course, I've seen retractable roofs on other cruise ships before, but here's the kicker. Other cruise lines don't use them. I don't know why. Perhaps they don't train the staff. Perhaps they're worried about breaking. I'm sure it's expensive piece of equipment here to fix, or they just don't work, or something along the lines of why I don't see them open and close. But I saw it multiple times, open and close throughout the cruise, and even within one day. In the morning, it would be, foggy, a bit rainy, and we didn't have to worry about being able to walk from one end to the other as we moved to the Lido market, which was the buffet on board, and moving from, one elevator to the other essentially is walking through those spaces of wet floors and slipping and things like that as you're moving through those decks, because it was completely dry and a comfortable space. It wasn't overly hot as well. So with it being a cooler weather sailing, it was really nice to still enjoy the pool area, even if it was cooler and raining. And the windows outdoors in the aft area of the ship, along with in the pool area, actually had heaters in the ceiling, which just simply blew my mind here. I was so happy to see this. So the windows didn't give off a draft and you could sit outside without freezing. So this Floridian really appreciated being able to enjoy some of the elements without needing my parka 24/7. Now, if you've cruised Holland America before, you may have heard about some themed nights with the Orange Night and Orange Party on board. This was a lot of fun. I love the fact that they had this party, and orange is the color of Holland America, so of course it makes sense that this would be a party. Now, people can really go all out for this event. There's even prizes for those who dress up and play along with this kind of costume. It can be a lot of fun. And one of the specific things you need to know prior to your cruise, so you can pack all of your orange gear. But even if you don't have it or you forget to pack it, they do sell orange belts, headbands, all that type of attire to adorn yourself with if you don't have any on your cruise. There's even orange flavored drinks on the menu. And this themed party was really a highlight of my cruise, meaning that it brought a lot of people out for a good time. This is the busiest I saw the cruise, with lots of people on the dance floor. I only wish the party was longer. The event only went on for 45 minutes. I think there could have been an after party going on as well. Oftentimes it takes a few minutes into a party for people to get on the dance floor, start letting loose, things of that sort, and I wanted it to keep going. But essentially, after the party was over, this venue closed, and it was still early in the evening. The party had started at about 8:30 at night. So 45 minutes later, it was on to the next venue on the other side of the ship, and I wanted it to keep going. I thought this was a fun thing. Earlier, I mentioned walking to the Lido Market, and if you're not sure what that is the buffet on board. They had a huge variety and selection of food, and I loved having the salads made to order and tossed. They even had a huge sushi selection during lunchtime. Simply very impressive for all of the different types of spreads they have here. Here's where I can sprinkle in a kind of odd thing that I noticed, even though I really loved this, is that they did place clean water glasses and rolled silverware on the tables in this Lido Market here. And again, I mention it as Lido Market because I was corrected in the elevator. Again, this is where you have all those conversations with other cruisers, is that it's not called a buffet, it's called the Lido Market. So I was promptly corrected by another guest here. Perhaps that's because you are being served the food and we don't touch any of the food. That's by design, as it has that glass enclosure and all the crew member helps you. Of course, you can have any of the options as you want, if you want more, and just the food was absolutely fabulous. But again, what I thought was odd was on the tables, at first glance, I thought there was no seating available because there would be glasses and coffee mugs along with the rolled silverware on the tables, which confused me, thinking that all the tables were occupied. But actually, that's how they turn the tables over and prepare them for the next guest. So as I'm holding my plate of food, I don't have to worry about getting a drink or my coffee in the morning and things like that. Those clean utensils and silverware and cups are already on the table for me. And then the servers will come around, the crew members will come by and ask if I would like any water and coffee and juice and things of that sort. So I enjoyed that they were able to serve us and help us, and that was really fabulous to make the morning seamless, but it actually really did confuse me at first glance. Happy to report that I actually loved much more than what I hated on board my very first Holland America cruise on the Nieuw Statendam. As a solar cruiser myself on this cruise, it was an interesting experience to experience a new cruise line, experience a sought after itinerary and destination, being going to New England. It had a lot of memorable moments, and I'm looking forward to sharing even more with you here. So if you want to see more from this cruise and more from the Nieuw Statendam, be sure to click on this video right here. A complete ship tour exploring all of what the ship offers from all the different venues that we didn't cover and what you need to know before you cruise on this ship. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to hit the like button, and until next time, ciao for now.